Welcome back to another video, guys. Today we are going to be doing another manga update. Surprisingly, so much has happened in the last 4 or 5 days, so we're going to be covering all of that in today's video. Now I just want to say before we begin, when I hit 1,000 subscribers, I'm going to open up this box. I've been thinking about it for a good while. This box, I got it from a card shop, so I got it from a good source. I'm going to open it up once I get 1,000 subscribers, so make sure to hit that subscribe button. But anyways, let's begin. Alrighty, so let's just begin with the red manga Luffy. This is a fake sale. Unfortunately, this guy made a video on he knew the person who actually owned this and auctioned it off. So if you haven't seen the video, make sure to check it out. I'll put a link in the description. But this was a fake sale. I don't know why people thought it was real. I didn't think it was if you thought this was real, please seek help. There's no way this would have been real from the start. People DM'd me and they're like, "Oh my goodness, did you see that sale?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's not real. Why would you think it's real?" And then the person actually came out and said, "Yeah, the person hasn't actually paid for it. It's just a dud bid." Apparently, there were two people who set that max bid at $100,000. So then they both intertwined with each other. So it's roughly along that lines. The guy did make a video. His friend was the person who auctioned it off. So make sure to check that out if you haven't already. But moving on, there is a new record all-time high sale for a Luffy. So this is the highest sale we've seen for a red manga. So this sold, now this is a best offer accepted, this is 12,300 USD is what it was listed for. Now, how do you check the best offer accepted? Well, there is a website for that. You see, back in the day, eBay would just tell you, but for some reason they like to be all quirky, so you have to check it out yourself. 130 Point is the website that I use. It's what most people use. You just chuck it into the search and this is what you get. The asking price was 12,300, as it says on eBay, but the sale price was 11,000 USD, which is a new all-time high record. This is what people speculated the PSA 10 price would sell for. Well, this is what some people speculate that the PSA 10 could sell for. It was really cheap, but look, at the end of the day, this card used to be $4 grand. Now it's jumping up to 11 grand. People are still getting a grip on how rare versus how expensive it should be. Barely any are being pulled. It's extremely rare. This says getting ripped into the oblivion. We'll get to the box price soon, but we've got a couple other sales to go through, so that is absolutely ridiculous. If this does hold as $11,000, usually a PSA 10 is 2.5, or if we're lucky, 3 times the raw price. So let's just say 2.5 to be fair. It would probably be about 25 to 26 grand as a PSA 10. Realistically, we have no idea. I mean, the pop seems to be pretty fair. 21 PSA 10s, 5 PSA 9s. So you do also have that, but it is definitely something to take into consideration. That is a pretty big deal nonetheless. We will begin to see the first couple sales of legitimate ones. So far there's none that have sold. So yeah, anyways, moving on. This is an all-time high sale for a case, so I just want you to take a couple things into note. This is in AUD, the USD price is in 3,200. This is in a different country, so do take that to note. But the fact that this even has the ability to sell for that much is remarkable. Now, this is in Australia where we didn't get a second wave. We only got one wave. Generally, Australia gets kind of dry whenever it comes to One Piece. So this is pretty interesting nonetheless. Moving on, there was a sale for $14.65 for a white bottom, which is pretty interesting. And then we're starting to see the first couple sales for this manga Ace. It is $2,000, which is a pretty fair number. I could see it sit at this for a while, maybe just a tad bit less or a tad bit more, but it will probably hover around this range for a good while. Alrighty, next we have a Priora Luffy. This is a PSA 10 selling for $4,500. This is officially the most expensive card from the blue bottom box. So the thing about this card to take to note, this is a little bit skewed, but you see how the PSA 10 pop says 548? That's not true. That is not true at all. This does not account for it being pre-errata. It seems that PSA at one point, maybe they may have noticed it was pre-errata, because the Nami card, some of them on the actual slab will say pre-errata, some of them won't. So this one, I guess they didn't pick up that it was pre-errata, so it's all just mushed into one pop. Here's an example of what I mean. You see how it says it's errata for the Nami? Yeah, so for the Luffy, it does not say that. So this pop may be skewed. Realistically, it's kind of difficult to know, but yeah, unless you manually searched up every single pop, if you can even do that. I don't know. I don't even know if you can, but yeah, that is definitely pretty interesting to see nonetheless. All right, moving on, we've got EBO2. This is at 308, which is a pretty respectable number. I don't think this box has gotten a reprint. If so, it's probably pretty small. It's a pretty recent set. This set came out this year. Yeah, so this box came out in May of 2025. To see it do these numbers is pretty incredible, although the manga inside is quite a good manga, so it kind of does justify it. Moving on, this manga Luffy is moving up. It was selling for about the $1,100 to $1,200 range, and now we're seeing prices all the way up to $1,400, and then if you go on eBay, it's a little bit more. Alrighty, next, Carrying His Wheel. This box is still going pretty strong. It's at 186, which is actually quite impressive. This did get a second wave, so do take that into note. Now, for some countries like Australia, it didn't get a second wave. In Australia, it actually does sell for $250. So the stakes are seriously on the line for this. I better pull something good because the stakes are really high here. But yeah, it is 186. Now, if we look at booster box cases, it's currently going for 2,400, approaching 2,500. But here's the thing. If you look, you'll see it's going up, which is cool. But dude, if we look at these sales, the amount of sales volume is insane. All of these are on the 30th, which is just today alone. From here onwards, all of these. That's ridiculous. This is some of the fastest selling volume we've seen. This amount of sales volume that we're seeing for OP13 is quite comparable to 05 when that came out. For anyone who remembers, it was insane. It stole all liquidity from every single TCG. It wasn't even funny. I've never seen a single trading card set ever do this before. But for 05, it was insane. And we're seeing a very similar thing here. Now, if we look, we'll see that this is the 29th. Look at how many sales there are on just the 29th. And then you go 28th. Look at how many sales. I mean, you just keep going. And there's so many sales. It is incredible to see the amount of sales volume for these cases alone. Cases should only be a couple of days, or even a couple of days a stretch. To have this many is insane. This is so insane. 434 have sold in the last 3 months. That is ridiculous. Alright, so it seems like Wings of the Captain is doing pretty decent. It hasn't moved up a whole ton, but from going like last week, it was like 170-ish. Now it's like 190. So it's definitely good to see. From all the early stats, this is definitely one of the weaker ones, but it is definitely carried by a manga Zoro, which is such a good manga. It's honestly enough to carry the set. Now, EBO1 is continuing to do insane numbers. Now, the reason why is that it has a lot of playable cards inside, but also I don't think it did get a reprint. It seems like the EB series, the extra booster, doesn't really get reprints, or if so, they're very small, because even in the last like 10 days, it's up like a bunch. Like now, what does it sell for? It sells for 620, while only like a week ago it was like 450. That's like a 200% movement upwards. I mean, that is insane. All right, so the thing with OP03, you'll see that at like November 18th, it was selling for like 3010. Now, if we look at recent sales, now it's like 347, 347, 349. So this one is up like $40. But anyways, moving on to OP09, you'll notice that's $288 a box. This did move overnight. I actually had this tab open, and then I refreshed it today just to get the most accurate like data, and it went from like 260 to 290, which is pretty insane. So you can see it was like 230 about 10 days ago. Now you can see it's selling for like 288. I mean, that's insane. Like, once again, a huge movement, and that's ridiculous. And then the final one, which is Awakening of the New Era. This is pretty much the beast of the One Piece TCG. I believe that this is the most iconic set, if I'm being honest. Like, it is a strong contender, like this or OP01. Like, OP01 is always going to be iconic, but like, man, OP05 is just, it's really up there with the signature Luffy, the Gear 5 Luffy, and a bunch of really nice Luffy artworks inside, and just good artworks in general. So it's definitely a recipe for success. But this one, only like, only 10 days ago, it was like $390. I made a video. I was talking about the top 5 booster boxes to invest in, and this was like 5 days ago. This was $380, and now it's $499, and then OP09, which was like $230 at the time, is now like $290. That's insane. That's the thing. I was like really putting emphasis, like, hey, if you want returns like as soon as humanly possible, you can buy these sets, or if you're happy to wait and you just want to make those big boy returns, OP13 is your best bet, but it just really depends what you're after. This is insane. And then if we look at recent sales, we'll see, it's about $4.99, $4.99, $4.99. So it's definitely up there. There are barely any listed, 31 listed, and like a good amount of these are just like Japanese ones. Once we get to English, then you do have to scroll a bit, but that is insane. It seems like this box may never go down $500 ever again. It's really like the One Piece market is really warming up. The question is just how far can it go? How much higher can it go in the short term? Will be interesting to see. But yeah, guys, thank you guys so much for watching. Now, guys, make sure to subscribe because I'll open this up once I get 1,000 subscribers, which will be very interesting to see. I hope I can pull the red Luffy, but every single human has ever said that, so that is the most basic thing you can possibly say. So do all you with that information. But anyways, that is going to do it for today's video, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.